Most barefoot shoes are ugly, they go against what we've always been told, and they're expensive. So why on earth would we buy them? That's exactly why I decided to sit down with this guy.
What if I told you the shoes you put on your feet are killing you?
Super duper hype is, hey! Make sure you don't forget it. Don't forget to mention. That was nice. Make sure you don't forget it. Once you start to feel it. Super hype.
And let's just begin and start with the big elephant in the room. Barefoot shoes are ugly AF.
There's these sandals I wear called Earth Runners. My favorite sandals. I hike a ton in them. Very, minimalistic. I swear on my life, I've been stopped like 20 times in like stores and restaurants, and people are like, "What are those? Those are amazing." I think they're pretty ugly looking. They look like Jesus sandals.
Jesus sandals.
Yeah, and I've worn them to like parties before and gotten talked. So I think if you just own something and you're authentic and natural and you're just being yourself, there are people out there that are going to be like on your side, and you just have to figure out if that is you. But I do think that number one, the fashion is going to be a thing going forward even more.
I think something that you said that was so brilliant to me was that people who set trends are always going against the grain. Good looking shoes are the way that they are just because of what? Someone decided this is how shoes should look, and that's just been the norm now because it gets perpetuated through media, right? And so if shoes naturally looked like barefoot shoes, then that would be the norm, and everyone would wear them, right? And then the weirdo if you have like these big cushions in your shoe, right? Something else that you said that I really liked was that you can never please everyone, right? So you got to pick a side of like what is important to you and what your values are, and that is going to dictate the choices that you make, because at the end of the day, who are you really trying to please?
Yeah, and when you do start to look at that and you're like, okay, like what makes me happy? What do I like to wear? Even though like I have this ingrained in my brain of like, this is what a shoe is supposed to look like. Instead I'm like, well, what adds value to a shoe? Does it look good? Yes, but in general, there's other things that make a shoe a good shoe. And if you really look at it, like I would say majority of what we see as the traditional shoes, they're not good shoes. And they're not even that fashionable. I think a lot of shoes look weird, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's my opinion on it. One of the things I thought was interesting, and this is a concept that I've heard other people explain with barefoot shoes, but imagine if you had gloves on your entire life and you took them off and you started to touch things, it probably would feel amazing, right? Physical touch is a big part of like being human, and feeling and sensory and all these things. And when you wear traditional shoes, you're cutting off majority of that. The idea is like you want it to be comfy and not feel the ground. I disagree. I think after wearing barefoot shoes for 3 years, I've realized so much of my life has been gone from feeling the ground. And now it's finally like, it's like I stepped out of the matrix and I'm finally feeling the ground, and I feel much more alive, right? And feeling is such an important part of being a human.
Yeah, and on that note, you think about the foot itself, right? It has more muscles, tendons, ligaments, joints, bones than any other part of the body, meaning there are more sensors, like literal physical sensors, for you to create proprioception, right? That connection from your feet to your brain. And so when we wear these shoes that have more cushion and squish our feet, we start to lose that sensory acuity, like that connection. And therefore, we're losing that connection to everything because our feet are what move us through the world, right? Nothing else touches the earth except for our feet for the most part, unless we're laying down. And you're walking thousands of steps every day. Hopefully. You're walking thousands of steps every day and millions of steps every year. If you can't feel that, that's going to start to create problems, right? Because if those muscles aren't working appropriately, if your feet aren't doing the job that they're supposed to be doing, you're not connected to those, then what happens is upstream, you're going to start to develop problems. And there's plenty of videos on the internet that talk about that on his channel, on my channel, on tons of other people's channels. But I think that's just a point that can't be emphasized enough.
So one of the things on kind of the feeling topic, and this is something that I got addressed on a lot when it came to my barefoot shoe video, or a few of the ones that I made, is concrete, like stepping on concrete. And is that, it's kind of an inconsistent variable in regards to evolution. We didn't have as much concrete, in millions of years in Paleolithic or Neolithic time frames. So is that good to be stepping on or bad to be stepping on? My opinion is kind of what you said, like people generally don't even walk enough nowadays. And the argument, so I rock climb, and I obviously put my fingers and hands through a lot of strenuous activities, and the goal is for me to get them as strong as possible because I'm using them so much. And I think the argument is 100% there for your feet. If the inconsistent variable is concrete, the argument is not like make your feet weak, because that's what shoes do. The argument is make your feet stronger. And also, if you've ever hiked or walked barefoot, there's a lot of sharp, rocks or things you cut your feet on.
It doesn't mean that you don't transition safely and that you continue to do foot strengthening exercises, which I've made a video about up here, that I'll link up in the description as well, that you can go check out, so that if you do make this decision, then you're gonna be doing it the right way and you don't hurt yourself.
Yeah, that's big.
I think barefoot shoes get a lot of flack in press and in media because it just goes against what we've always been told. And because it goes against what we've always been told, there's controversy there. What do you think about that, and how do you frame it for yourself?
So I feel, and I've talked a little bit about this on my channel in a recent video, and he'll link some of these guys around the video, but you always have to ask yourself, what is the motivation behind a product being created, right? And a lot of products solve problems, and a lot of products create problems. I would argue that a lot of companies that have, created some products that are normal in modern society actually create a lot of problems. And I've made videos about beds, I've made videos about shoes, and there's other products that exist out there that I argue create problems and do not solve problems. When you look at it from the perspective of companies do want to make a lot of money. That is the optimal goal. There's nothing wrong with making a lot of money, but I do think there's something wrong with making money and creating problems for people. So when you really look at a product and you say, does it solve a problem or does it create a problem, is when you really get to push beyond the boundary and say, well, I know this company wants to make money and I know they want me to buy their product, but does this product create problems or does it solve problems? I would argue that if you look at what shoes do, the modern day shoe, what we've been told we need for running, for exercise, for fashion, for all these different things, I think they create more problems than they solve.
Part of what I'm doing on this channel, a big motivation behind it is I believe the best products in the world usually have the worst marketing. And they usually have the worst marketing because they spent all their money on product development and on team and on resources and not advertising and not marketing. And I've been in marketing my entire career, 8-9 years now, since I was 19 years old. I've been doing online marketing my entire life. And so I've been behind the scenes of really big marketing campaigns, and I've worked with the best marketers in the world. And I will tell you that marketing is so powerful that they can get you to believe an idea that was never in existence before, like you need to have cushion in your shoe, right? So that they can create a demand and then manufacture that demand. If we just use logic from my perspective, what I see with barefoot shoes is it's literally just reverting back to how things were and how they should be, versus trying to create anything new. It's just like, no, we're stripping everything away. And I'm a big believer that results in life can usually be found not by addition, but by subtraction.
I get this question all the time, like, why are they so expensive? Especially because it's less material, so you would think, right, it'd be cheaper. And there's a few things to tackle here when it comes to this. The first things first is that there's so much that goes into creating a product, creating a company, and I don't even know what the margins are for these companies, but I guarantee you it's not as good as you think. And if you were to try to go into an REI or any sort of brick and mortar shoe store, you're not gonna find barefoot shoes in there. They're not widely popular, but they do a lot of work to try to get it to a place where they can sell it, but also still make money.
A lot of these companies are also using recycled material and trying to make these products sustainable and eco-friendly and carbon neutral, which means that they're not destroying the environment while creating their products, which almost every single shoe company is, which is something that I'm really excited and proud about. I think that's a really great added benefit that no one really seems to talk about.
We talked a little bit about design. How much do you think goes into designing a shoe? So much. And we want, I think barefoot shoes are getting more fashionable. And in order for us to accept that, we have to understand that there's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that go into creating a fashionable design of a shoe, testing a lot of things out until it hits the market, and that probably makes its way into the price point, especially when you're a small company. So there's a lot of factors that even I can't really talk about or know, but I do know for a fact that when you're looking at it from the perspective of, hey, is this reasonable? I do think it's reasonable, especially you're making investments for your health, which I think you can't really put a price on. And it's not coming from a biased standpoint. And the last thing to remind people is that you can just take off your shoes watch his video on transitioning for sure into barefoot shoes, but also understand that you don't have to buy anything. Right now it's cold outside, so that's not gonna be pleasurable, but you can definitely just take off your shoes. I've walked barefoot many, many times on hikes, on trips. When I can, I take off my barefoot shoes and I just go barefoot, and it's completely free.
And I think it's just good, it's a good thing to do in regards to just being healthy overall, is just doing things that are a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit hard, because it builds resilience and it builds resistance against, you know, the forces of nature and life, right? And so when we can do harder things that are a little bit more challenging, that are a little bit tougher, that are maybe uncomfortable, there's a lot of yield and benefit that comes from that as a byproduct, not just the health benefits that come along from walking barefoot and what that does to your mechanics.
Amen. So once again, you know, I believe this is 100% true. What works for me, what works for us may not work for you. We're just two dudes on the internet who found, you know, some things that have worked for us really, really well, but take everything we say with a grain of salt. This is not health advice. Once again, just two dudes on the internet making some videos. But in general, I do think that they're very worth giving a shot, because the upside to if these things do work for you is huge. It's ginormous.
Yeah, 100% would agree. And I have two barefoot shoes that I'm currently wearing. These are Field Grounds and these are Vivos. These are my two favorite companies. They also look decently stylish. I will not buy and wear stupid clown shoes. So this is as far as I go, because I actually care about what I look like. So if you want to go check those out, there'll be some links in the description as well. And just want to say thanks, Cade, for joining us on the channel. Go show him some love. Go check him out. He talks about all different types of weird lifestyle experiments that you'll be super into. So anyway, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button. It really does help get this video out to more people. Share it with a friend if you think it's compelling, and leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you wear barefoot shoes or if we convince you to wear barefoot shoes. And if not, then you can fight me about it in the comments and I'll see you there, okay? Take care, be well, talk soon.